Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching Boom, the political vigilante making Gotham great again, serving up shaved knuckle justice one video at a time. Well, we've covered a lot of stories on this show in the 3.5 years I've been doing it, numerous about the Native American community and the injustice. I've talked about murdered and missing Indigenous women and how there's all these old loopholes where, you know, if a non-native commits a crime on a reservation, they're not prosecuted, and all this stuff is happening. Where a landmark decision just came down from the Supreme Court yesterday. This is a big win. Landmark Supreme Court ruling affirms Native Americans' rights in Oklahoma. A 5-4 decision declaring that much of eastern Oklahoma is an Indian reservation could reshape criminal justice in the area by preventing state authorities from prosecuting Native Americans. This also contributes to, in terms of police brutality, it's not just in the Black community or the Latino community. It's very heavy in the Native community. It's very heavy. And a comedian that I worked with on the FNX First Nations Comedy Experience, Adrienne Chalapa, told a very emotional story on her Instagram feed about what happened to her brother. And he was a Native guy with, suffered from mental illness, and the cops just, took him out, which is like, it's brutal. So this is a big decision. This is a big win. The 5-4 decision, potentially one of the most consequential legal victories for Native Americans in decades, could have far-reaching implications for the people who live across what the court affirmed was Indian country. So this is what happened. Ruled that much of eastern Oklahoma falls within Indian reservation. This is the Cherokee Nation, Muskogee Creek. That's part of the Seminole, Chickasaw, and Choctaw Nation, right? This came from the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. This article that I'm referencing was in the New York Times. So this is what this does, right? The decision puts in doubt hundreds of state convictions of Native Americans and could change the handling of prosecutions across a vast swath of the state. So what that means is saying any crimes that, now this is Native land now, so any crimes committed there cannot be prosecuted by non-Native. So each reservation has its own tribal police and tribal court, right? So that's what this does. Lawyers were also examining whether it had broader implications for taxing, zoning, and other government functions. Because again, I want to go back to this map. The way this is supposed to be, this is sovereign land. This is their nation, their land, right? So they should be able to govern it however they want, correct? But that hasn't been the case. These are basically, several hundred years ago, these are almost like internment camps. Let's be honest. And as we've talked about with COVID, the Navajo Nation and many other Native American have had COVID, especially the Navajo Nation, has been so bad because they don't have as many hospitals. They don't have as much healthy food. They're not given as much money. I talked about the disbursement of CARES Act money, and 600 tribes across the United States got a total of like 3 or 5 billion. It was some insanely small number. It was like, you got to be kidding me. So it's like these are big steps, and part of and many of the complaints, and rightfully so, have been the United States government has never acknowledged all of the shit that it's done to Native Americans, stealing land, all that stuff. And there's all these little bullshit rules that were enacted in the 1800s because they didn't want a Native uprising or whatever. And it's like they're so outdated. So what that could mean is broader implications for taxing, zoning, and other government functions. What the long-term effects of this, much of it we don't know yet. It sounds like it could be really positive. So here are the judges. McGirt versus Oklahoma, the court ruled 5-4 that much of Eastern is a reservation. This is the liberal bloc: Sotomayor, Ginsburg, Kagan, and Barefoot. But Gorsh dissented. And some people say, well, he didn't do it because he was in favor of Native Americans. He just was like holding the letter of the law. Whatever. Whatever. That's what the Supreme Court is supposed to be. is like really get down to the letter of the law. It's what it's supposed to be. Obviously, it's very politicized because a Republican president tries to stack it. And that's what they did. Obama. This all needs to be revamped. Separate video. This is a historical day. Principal Chief David Hill said in an interview, "This is amazing. It's never too late to make things right." But at the same moment, the nationwide movement to confront systemic racism has infused new energy and attention to generations-long fights by tribal nations and indigenous activists over land, treaty rights, and discrimination, which is good. This is why, look, all this stuff that happened with the George Floyd, everyone was on lockdown. Everyone had saw George Floyd get murdered. And everyone took to the streets and was like fed up. And so what's happened, and this is a very good thing in this last month and a half or so since George Floyd was murdered, is everyone's like, no, all these long-standing things that we've been like, oh boy, someone should do something. No, defund the police, refund social programs, more justice for Native Americans. We can't, because everyone's like, it ain't right. It ain't right. It's not right. And if you're going to talk about all the injustices that have been done to black people in this country, and rightfully so, we have to include Native Americans. We absolutely have to. So people are like, yep, all right. And it's no like, well, it's like, no, let's fix it all. Let's cut the military budget in half. Let's cut all this shit. A bunch of victories this week for the Native American community and all of America, in my opinion. DAPL getting shut down. The Atlantic Pipeline gets shut down. DAPL, all this stuff that happened in Standing Rock, it has to be drained shut down. And it's a good week. We got to celebrate the victories on the show. I talk about a lot of dark stuff and a lot of ruling class screwing us all over and Epstein and all this awful shit. So this is significant. The court's decision means that indigenous people who commit crimes on the eastern Oklahoma reservation, which includes much of Tulsa, cannot be prosecuted by state or local law enforcement and must instead face justice in tribal or federal courts. Let's just go back to the map. That's significant. It's significant in terms of the systemic racism towards Native Americans. So, in the same way, what happened to George Floyd? Oh, he passed a counterfeit bill, so that means he gets to get murdered? No. A Native American gets a crime. The Tulsa police, the state police, whatever, can just beat the shit out of him, kill him, whatever, throw the book at him. No. Tribal police should be able to handle it. If these are actually sovereign nations, right? Like an American commits a crime overseas, a lot of times they're sent back, you come back here and face, right? That's technically how it should be. So let the tribal police handle it. I bet you this might help with the murdered and missing indigenous women. I don't know. I'm not a legal expert on any of that for sure, but that's that's one of the loopholes I've talked about, right? So, a non-native commits a crime, a murder, or is implicated in the disappearance of a native woman. There's no recording of it. The tribal police aren't given enough money. There's 4 officers to handle some massive piece of land. So there's a lot of elements. There's a lot of stuff to this. But this is a huge step in the right direction to let the reservations and the tribal courts take care of their own, give them the jurisdiction to judge and police their own, right? Because again, you're Native American and a white cop just looks at you as some drunk, troublemaking native. So this is a huge thing. Again, energy and attention to generation-long fights by tribal nations and indigenous activists over land, treaty rights, and discrimination. Right? Just to reiterate this, that the court's decision means that indigenous people who commit crimes on the eastern Oklahoma reservation, which includes much of Tulsa, cannot be prosecuted by state or local law enforcement and must instead face justice in tribal or federal courts. Not 1 inch of land changed hands today, said Jonadev Chowdhury, ambassador for the Creek Nation. All that happened was clarity was brought to potential prosecutions within Creek Nation, which is significant. Reading it, The understanding of what has happened to our people was nice to see acknowledged at this level of government, said Sarah Deer, a lawyer and professor at the University of Kansas, who is also a citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Big victory. Big victory. It's good to see, right? And white people, you didn't lose anything. White people in Oklahoma, they didn't take away any of your rights. Nothing was, we're just giving up this country. No. Nothing was just, all that means is that tribal members who commit crimes will be tried in tribal court. You didn't lose anything, white people. It's all good. There's nothing to get mad or protest. There's no gun and Confederate flag you need to wave around. Yes, that's how it should be. And I bet you from a tax standpoint, the Tulsa and Oklahoma State Police now don't have to spend money on handling this. I'm just throwing that out there again. I'm not an expert on this situation, but I'm just, any white people are like, no. It's a good thing. No white person lost any rights today. Nobody, nothing. Like the guy said, not one piece of land changed hands. The land that has already been designated as an Indian reservation, now they actually have more jurisdiction over their own people. That's all it should be. It's insane. It's like, it'd be like if I'm a member, like I can't, I don't know what example I'm trying to use here, but like, so I live in Santa Monica, which has its own police department. But what if, like, anytime if a citizen of Santa Monica got arrested, the Santa Monica police had no couldn't do anything about it, like, and LAPD would come here and arrest, like anything like that? Maybe I'm not explaining that well. You know what I mean? This is a victory. Shave your knuckles for justice. We're all making Gotham great again. Thanks for supporting this show. It's great getting some good news, right? DAPL, boom. Atlantic Pipeline, boom. Supreme Court, boom. Thanks for watching the show, because this is a victory for all of us. If you're on the side of the right, if you're on the side of truth, if you're on the side of justice, it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. You don't even have to live in Oklahoma. This is a victory for human rights. This is a victory for righting wrongs that this country has done. We need to, as a country, need to admit we committed genocide against Native Americans. We stole land. We used slaves. It was awful. Let's just make it right. A couple things like this, stuff like this just makes it right, and nobody loses anything. Nobody loses anything. How are we going to pay for reparations? The same way we pay for all the wars. This is a win for all of us, especially Native Americans. Shave your knuckles for justice. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification button and the subscribe button, even if you've done it before, because they're unsubscribing, many of you, every day. Watch the ads all the way through. If you click skip ad, I don't get paid. Also, support us at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Rockfin.com is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. All my videos are on Rockfin ad-free. Thanks for watching.